Welcome to the Secret Math of Money. This show is meant for entertainment purposes only. I hold no financial certifications or information that is not generally available. No guarantees are stated or implied. It is your money, and you are responsible for any decisions you make regarding it. Today is Saturday, August 26, 2017, and this is the Secret Math of Money, presented by Evil Bunny Consulting. I'm your host, Tyrone Griffin, and today we're going to discuss the things that you should have learned or should have been taught in high school but weren't. For everybody on Facebook, I apologize that I couldn't do this live. I'm having some weird internet connection issues at home, so I couldn't do it live. But I'll be posting this video. Well, if you're seeing this video on Facebook, you know I posted it. But let's get to today's show. The topic is money works the same for everyone. What does that mean? You see a lot of workshops. One thing I've seen a lot of in different areas of workshops with titles such as financial tips for kids, or financial tips for women, or financial tips for men, or millennials, and etc. And while there may be different recommendations based on where somebody is in life, the fact is money works the same for everyone. It's marketing, and I'm not bashing that, but that's really what it is. It's marketing. It's a way of gearing your message for a certain audience. But don't lose sight of the idea that money simply works one way. I've seen workshops, they say, money moves for Black people, for African Americans, for Latino Americans. The basic math rules of money don't change. Okay, so if you get invited to one of these workshops, I'm not saying don't go, but I'm saying don't get this idea in your head that if you're Black, or if you're Latino, if you're Asian, or whatever, versus if you're white, or that money works differently. Money is about, your money mind, as I call it, it's mental. Okay, it's if you're doing a budget, if you're trying to write a budget, it's not. You can put anything on paper. You can put anything you want on paper. It's not about what's on paper. It's how you think about it. Okay, that's how money works. Now, if you see something, they say, well, say you want to teach your children about money. You want to teach your children how to save and so on. The first thing you have to do is live that. I recently had a conversation with somebody who goes on vacation a couple of times a year. And, they broke it down. And, this is something I used to do, actually, a long time ago. But they broke it down. They said, I couldn't afford all these vacations. And I'm not blowing my money spending it. What they're doing is they got their miles. They're getting their miles on their cards. They're leveraging and this and that. But that's part of that money mind. When you're leveraging, when you're not just putting money away into the bank. And I have nothing against banks. We need banks. My problem with banks, savings in the bank, is that the bank is giving you no interest. 0.5% on interest. And they are making a ton of money because they're taking your money and investing it. That's what they do. They're not lying about it. They're not misleading you. That's just what they do. So if you have the money idea, if you have a mindset, a financial mindset, the first thing, you can do it yourself. Anytime anyone tells you that they are going to invest your money for you, understand this. They are not doing it for free. There is nobody that's going to invest your money for you for free. They're going to charge you. They are making something off your money. Don't ever lose track of that. Anybody who is doing for you, they're getting paid. They're not lying to you. They're not, they're just understand they're making money off your money. And if they guarantee you, like we talked about insurance a couple of weeks ago, investing in insurance, if they guarantee you a certain return, you can rest assured they built in where they're going to get more than that back. Nobody's going to target 8% and give you 6. Okay, they're going to target 15 and give you 6. But anyway, so when you see these workshops, and they're good. I'm not saying they're not. Some different messages. I'm not going to evaluate any of them. But understand, with money, there are 3 things you do with money. You save it, you invest it, or you spend it. That's it. Your mentality will dictate how you do each of those things. Your mentality will dictate if you gear toward savings, toward investing, or toward spending. Those are just the three things you can do. So let's break into that. This week's show is more, again, this is more a cerebral show this week. It's not like, oh, here's an investment, here's how you do it. It's more about what is your mindset. Now, one thing that everybody wants to invest, everybody wants to spend, and everybody wants to save. But think about when we were talking about a couple of months ago about building a budget, creating a personal budget. If you're creating a budget, you can write down any numbers you want on the paper. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. What really matters is your mindset when you start getting into what are the must-haves and the nice-to-haves. How do you break down those differences? You know, some people, a must-have is, and I'm not trying to pick on ladies here, but a must-have is I have to go to the beauty salon every week or every 2 weeks. For men, a must-have might be, well, I got to get my, I got to go to the bar, you know, every Friday and buy a round. Or I got to go play poker with the buddies or whatever. I got to do something. Or I have to get my season tickets for my favorite team. I'm not going to judge. Some people, those are nice to haves. Some people, those are must haves. And that's just how it works. Some people, they got to have it. This is how it is. Okay? So let's talk about saving. How much do you save? I can't tell you how much you save. But, and this goes through all the different things. What is your financial goal? So say if you're in a position where you want to teach your kids about money or you want to teach somebody about money. Saving. What is your goal for saving? Well, I want to have a rainy day. Is your goal short term? Is your goal long term? Are you trying to save for retirement? How much time do you have for retirement? What kind of return do you want? There are people out there, believe it or not, there are people out there that are on the ball as far as their savings accounts, their retirements, their everything. They're putting a lot of money away. They're putting as much as they can. Maybe they're paranoid. I'll be honest. I'm one of those people. I'm paranoid. You know, once you've been out of work for a while, you get really paranoid. So I'm putting in everything I can into my retirement, my 401k or my rainy day funds, things like that. That's just me. That's just how my mind works. Some people, you know, have this idea, well, I may not live to 65, so I'd rather have the money and spend it now. Nothing wrong with that. Just acknowledge that's who you are. Just acknowledge that. But if you're talking about saving, what is your mindset? What is it what is your goal? Is your goal short term? Is your goal long term? Do you have both a short and a long term goal for saving? Okay, if you have a long term goal, what is it? I personally, I would encourage you if you don't have a long term goal. I have a son in college right now, and you know our goals are just the next semester sometimes, make sure that the education is paid for the next semester. But we're also thinking 30 years down the road. You know, how much financing of this college do we want to do versus how much do we want to rely on scholarships and just out of our pockets? Because when you rely on loans, loans ain't free. You got to pay them back. So how much are you relying on those things versus how much are you relying on other sources of money? But it goes into your mindset. There is no right or wrong answer. And I apologize for this week's show. It's probably going to feel like it's all over the place. There's no right or wrong answer for a lot of these things. What I want you to do is think about where you are and what is it that is important to you. For some people, it is very important to have a new car every couple of years. That's very important for whatever reason, safety, security, whatever. But some people, that is important. Nothing wrong with that. For some people, it is important to go on vacation twice a year. Some people, it's important to eat out in a fancy, expensive restaurant once or twice or 3 times a week, whatever. Whatever it is that is important to you, just own up to it. Now, where you get into trouble is if things are important to you that cost money, and because you do these things, you are not then able to put money away. I know somebody who knows somebody. Person is in a situation where they had 2 jobs. They literally had 2 full-time jobs. Interesting. And they went out and bought, they were working two jobs. They worked one, they were working 18, 20 hours a day, but they had actually two full-time jobs. And they went out and bought a nice flashy car, well, because they were making all this money. They went out and they said, I deserve it, and they went out and bought, a flashy, expensive, I would say, car. And earlier this year, they changed one of their jobs. And as a result of that job changing, they couldn't work two jobs. So now they're working one job. Well, now they got a problem is they're having trouble paying their home expenses and that car note, because even though they got a raise in the one job, it wasn't enough to make up for the two jobs they had. They were living up to their means. People talk, we call it keeping up with the Joneses. Sometimes it's no Joneses out there you're keeping up with. You're just spending up to what you have. You sat down and looked at a budget and you said, oh, I'm clearing, X dollars a month. Let me go buy something. Oh, I got $1,000 a month. Let me go buy a new car. I deserve it. And, nothing wrong with that. That's, nothing wrong with any of this. But what happens sometimes is things change. Your lifestyle changes, your employment status changes, all kinds of things. Maybe you and a spouse are working and one of you gets laid off. Any number of things can happen. And when that happens, all of a sudden that lifestyle that you've been living, and again, I don't know how much this person is putting away for their retirement. They're living for today. Nothing wrong with if you decide you want to live for today. That's fine. Don't cry tomorrow if you've spent all your time living for today. Okay, just don't, just like if you're living for tomorrow, if you're putting away money, don't complain about being broke, because you're intentionally doing that because you got another goal. Living for today. You want to live for today? Fine. Acknowledge that that's what you're doing. I'm living for today. I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor today. Just acknowledge it. That's what I'm doing. Okay? But this person ended up in this situation where now they can't afford the car and their home expenses. And if I can fault anything in this person, I'm very hesitant to try to fault anybody, but I won't fault them. I'll say what they probably should have done, which they didn't, was when they looked at taking the new job and they realized they couldn't work their old job, they didn't put on paper, okay, here's what I'm breaking now, here's what I'm going to make under the new job by itself. Is that enough to pay my bills? Had they done that, they probably would have seen that they were actually taking a decrease in income, because now they went from two jobs to one. They were taking a decrease, and because of that decrease, maybe they wouldn't be able to afford their monthly bills. That's the kind of mindset you have to have. Is that, okay, how is this going to affect me financially? So anyway, when you talk about savings, when you talk about what you're putting away, what are you putting it away for? And are you putting away? There are many people who say they can't afford to save, but they go on vacation every year, or they go and do little things. The thing about saving, you don't have to save $1,000 at a time. You can save $1. You can save $5. Okay. You can start small and just save a little bit every day, week, month, or whatever. So it's not where you have to wait until you get a pile of money. But I want to live. Yeah. I almost said, living is overrated, but that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. What I'm saying is that you have to make sacrifices in life. Most of us cannot have it all. There are rich people out there, like the lady that hit Powerball for $700 million, who I would love to marry if you're watching. We're all not there. We don't have enough to do everything that we want. We just don't have. We all aren't independently wealthy to do everything that we want to do in life. So you have to make sacrifices, and those sacrifices will be based on mentally where you are and what you feel is important. That will dictate the sacrifices you make for yourself, for your family, for your future. Okay? That's just all there is to it. So on a savings point, that's where the mental part comes in. Where you are mentally will dictate a lot about where you can save. Now, the next thing about that, the mental mind, is three. Again, remember I told you there were three things you do with money: saving, investing, and spending. Let's talk about investing. How much do you want to invest? How much should you invest? I can't give you a right answer to that. It's totally dictated by your needs, your goals, and your wants. I say for me personally, and this is just what I did. When I first started working, I put my money in three buckets. One bucket went to taxes. I couldn't control that. One bucket went to my investment savings, and one bucket I lived on. So I lived well under my means. That was just me. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm not saying anybody should do that. But that was what I chose to do because I wanted to focus some things, the money, because you got hair in your nose and it just itches. I'm sorry. I wanted to focus on some other things. I'm not bragging about that. I'm not saying that's the superior method. No, that was just what I did. So I took the stance of trying to invest everything that I could from day one, okay, and just put as much as I could away. And for today, I lived again well under my means. I got the cheapest place I could get. I rode a hoopty. Oh man, I had more hoopties. But back and forth to work. That was me. Call me cheap, call me whatever. But it was funny when I worked at first company I worked for. They had this thing at one point where you could take your raise in a lump sum. So say if you were getting a raise this year and you were getting X percent, it equated to so many dollars. You could take that raise and get it as a lump sum. So what would happen is, say if your raise was $2,000, you could get a check for $2,000 now. And what would happen is that your paycheck gross wouldn't change. So you would still just keep getting the same amount of money, but you got $2,000 in cash, for right now if you want to spend it on something. People did that. I'm not saying it was right or wrong. I never did it. It didn't work for me. Okay, I don't want to sit and sound like I'm on my high horse or anything. Some things it just didn't work for what I was trying to do. Okay. But how much should you invest? That's the decision that you have to make. How should you invest? What should you invest in? Man, what is your goal? Is it a retirement, financial freedom? We've talked a lot in different episodes of this podcast. We talked about investing. How much money you want to invest, where you want to invest. All up to you. All I will say is this. This is not rocket science. It is truly, truly not rocket science. Will you lose money at times? Yeah, probably. Unless you're brilliant or extremely lucky, you will lose money on an investment from time to time. I lose money on some of my investments every day because the stock market is like this. But you have to decide, how much risk you're willing to take. And remember, risk is a 4-letter word, but nobody can really quantify risk because risk depends on so many factors. What's risky to me may not be risky to you, and what's risky to you may not be risky to me. But it's the same thing. It all depends on your tolerance for risk. If you have a high tolerance for risk, you will undertake more risky investments. The downside is there's possibly a more of a likelihood, depending on how you use statistics, that you will lose money on a lot of those investments. However, if you make money on any of those investments, you're probably going to make a lot of money on those investments because they're risky. Okay. So when you're looking at investing, it's up to you to think about where you are mentally, emotionally, what's important to you. If you say, what, I want to save for my retirement, then you're throwing as much money into your retirement account as possible. Now, that will impact your savings because you can't save if you can't take the $1 and split it 2 ways. You can't do that. Okay, so it goes back to that idea of what is more important to you. What is, how important is saving for the future versus living for the now. I'm not saying either is right or wrong. I'm saying you have to decide which one is important to you. Okay, so investments. There are risky investments, and there are non-risky investments. We talked about junk bonds a couple of months ago. We've talked about, the whole Bernie Madoff thing. We talked about how the stock market crashed and why it crashed 10 years ago, this year, which is, we're coming up on that. But we talked about those things, and there's certain, there are different things that you can invest in, different tools, different products you can invest in. We talked about those a couple of weeks ago. I'm referring to these old shows. They're all on the YouTube channel. So feel free, if you look this up, to go back and you can see all the old shows. But we talked about a lot of these things, so I don't want to rehash it now. Okay, right now I just want to, just talk about this topic. But, how much you invest in all that, you have to make that decision, what you invest in. All the thing I can suggest is I put as little money as possible in the bank because, yeah, it's safe. Yeah, you can get it quickly. But for that safety and efficiency, you give up a ton of return. When the banks are giving you a half of a quarter of 1%, that's a risk-free investment. That's basically, that's a return-free investment. And they are, excuse me, had hot yoga this morning. Yeah. No, that hot yoga's killing me. But those putting your money in a savings account, it's easily accessible, but what are you giving up for that access? And I would say, at a minimum, you're giving up return. But again, where you at here? This will dictate how things go. So we talked about savings. We talked about investing. Here's the good one that everybody likes. Let's talk about spending. You want to teach your children about money, you have to embody what you're trying to teach them. Okay, number one, you can't try to teach your children and you're not doing it right. So teach them about spending. How do you feel about spending? Do you keep track of what you spend? Do you have a budget? Do you cater to your ego? You see how these similar themes keep coming up? Do you try to keep up with the mythological Joneses? How do you feel about money? People have different perspectives on money based on a lot of factors, how they were raised and so on. There's no right or wrong way to feel about money. It's just, it is what it is. Okay, that's just how money works. But, excuse me, I'm sorry. But spending money is fun. People will tell you in a minute, spending money is a barrel of laughs. Just running out and whipping that card out and just buying. But what is your mentality on spending? What is your thought? And remember, spending, investing, and savings all kind of go together. Those are that's the well, I'm not even gonna try to make a pie, something like that. But they're all pieces of the same pie, and the pie is your income, your total income, and you can shift the pieces, the triangle within there. You shift it from one, you take it from another. Okay, but what is your mentality on spending? Goes back to that idea of keeping up the Joneses of getting flashy cars, and don't get me wrong, as I've said on the show many times, I want a BMW 750 Li. Anybody has an extra one out that they want to give me, I would be happy to take it. But that's what I want. I haven't gotten one yet, but I will. At some point in the future, it's going to wake up one morning and go bing, and I'm going to look at some of my accounts and go, it's time. And I'm going to go down to the dealership with a briefcase full of money, like the mob. Bam! Drop it on the table and tell them, you got a half hour to get that one ready. And open the briefcase, going to be just stacks of hundreds. Yeah. Gangsta. No. But, do you cater to that ego? We all got egos, so I'm not trying to put myself above anybody. I know I want a 750. I know it's got nothing to do with gas mileage or anything ridiculous. I just want a 750. And we get like that. We cater to our ego. Nothing wrong with that. I haven't gotten my 750 because A, that sucker is $100,000, but B, to get that, how much am I going to have to spend a month? Am I ready to spend that much a month where I could be taking that same money and putting it somewhere else? I'm not ready to spend that much money on a car. I'm not. I'm sorry. Some people are. God bless them. But it's that mental mindset. I'm not saying if you are driving one or spending that kind of money, or if you have a car note that's $600 or $700 or $800, I'm not saying nothing wrong with that. One thing, something wrong with that if you can't meet it, if you can't make your payments, then yeah, something's wrong with that. But other than that, nothing wrong with that. Okay, that's just how you choose. But understand, you can't teach your children or anybody. You can't try to teach them about being frugal and miserly if you're driving a 750, new, and say, "Oh, I got this because I just felt like getting it." Well, that's not, kids learn not what you say, they learn by watching. They learn what you do. Got a kid, I know that, trust me. You can tell them all day, but if you're doing something different, if you tell them say no to drugs, but you're down in the basement getting toe up every night, and they know it, it ain't gonna work. It's gonna go in one ear and out the other. Everything you tell them. That's just how it is. So if you want to teach your children about money, you got to develop the right money mindset. You got to live what you envision, what you want to tell them to do. You have to live that life. And that might mean changing your mindset. That definitely means changing your mindset on what is important to you, on how you like to spend, save, or invest. You have to change and get in sync, get in line with what you're trying to tell your children. Because kids know. They know when you're blowing smoke. Okay? They know when you're telling them, say no to drugs and alcohol and this and that, but every Friday night you are tore out the frame. Okay? They know. Kids know that, So, and it works for you better if you switch and live that type of lifestyle where you're saving more, you're investing more, and you're spending less because you just realize you don't need some of the things you're spending money on. It helps you out as well. It helps you a great deal. Sorry, my back is hurting. It helps you a great deal because hopefully you will have better peace of mind, today, but also you'll have more saved for tomorrow. Okay, that's how that works. Okay. So anyway, to wrap it up, and again, Facebook, everybody else, I apologize. This isn't live. I was having trouble with my internet stream, so I'm just filming it and I'm going to post it. So I didn't get any questions this week. But to wrap it up, is again, when I look at these different workshops for different groups of people, and I always wonder, at the end of the day, their message has pretty much got to be the same. If you invest 4%, you invest at 4% return on a bond, no matter who you are, you're going to get the same amount back. So it's less a situation where if a woman invests versus a man invests, but it's more a situation, okay, let's create a financial foundation as a person. Let's create what are our financial aspirations? And our financial aspiration may be just, when I get 60, I'm not going to worry about having my money. I want to drive my flashy rides and have my nice clothes and, go on expensive vacations. I want to do that now. I want to do it while I'm young. I don't want to wait till I'm old and start doing those things. Okay? That's nothing wrong with that lifestyle. Acknowledge that that's your lifestyle. Acknowledge that there will possibly be consequences down the road for that lifestyle. Just like if you choose not to spend your money today and save it, there are consequences for that if that's what you choose. Okay, if you choose to spend it, then that means today you will be foregoing a lot of those, flashy cars, the flashy clothes, the vacations on a regular basis. Just acknowledge it. Okay, my priorities are these things. My priorities are not this over here. Once you acknowledge that, then, your mindset will follow. Whichever mindset it is, your actions will follow them because you put yourself in the right situation. I guess my message for this week's show, the message is figure out who you are. Figure out who you are mentally, your money mentality. Figure out what it is. It's not hard. Just look at what's important to you. What are your financial priorities? Okay? Do you want to put 22-inch rims on a 22-year-old car and drive around? Boom, 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 boom. If that's what you want to do, okay, then acknowledge that's what you want to do, but understand the ramifications of that. Everything in life has ramifications. So with that, talk for a half hour. Everybody, thank you so much. Hopefully next week I'll have this internet issue worked out and we'll be able to do a live show. With that, I'm going to end. As always, I appreciate your feedback, your thoughts, your prayers, your love. I appreciate it. Okay. So with that, I'm going to end this. Everybody have a blessed week. Have a great. We won't be back for this show for 2 weeks, so it'll be after Labor Day, is it? So everybody have a very safe and enjoyable Memorial Day if you choose to go out and party and celebrate. Other than that, we will see you next week on the Bunny Slippers Weevil Job Seeker Show. Take care, folks, and have a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.